what you presented, and that things will go well. I see that you guys have quite a topic, an overall topic that you've been going through, and I want to say I really like it. A house in order, restoring the land through healthy families. I do believe that restoration of the land comes through families, and families' involvement in 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 the lives of all the members. And thank you for this topic as well that you've asked me to present on coping with depression as a teenager. And I must say that as we go through today, it does not only apply to teenagers per se. I will talk a bit more specialized to teenagers in some aspects, but it's a general topic that we all can benefit from. So let us just, say a quick word of prayer and let's press on. Dear Lord Jesus, Lord, thank you again for this time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Lord, I pray that you will speak through me, Lord, and that, Lord, whatever be spoken, Lord, will be something that you want said. And I pray that you will touch the hearts of the ones who are listening, and that they will learn, and that they will understand, and they will grow to be more and more like you, and show compassion as we can. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right, so we press on.
The dress that I tried
Okay,
on, did it look like the
give me
design,
1 second.
like the style?
Yes.
It does.
I will just remind everyone to mute themselves. Throughout the presentation, I'll have a time when you can unmute and ask questions and a bit of feedback. So let's go on. So today, just going to run through a quick outline. Yeah, here we go. So we're just going to look at, what's depression, the prevalence of depression, some of the causes, and
Recording
we
in
can
progress.
cope. It's an acronym that we had that I've come up with, and then some questions and comments as we go along. All right, so depression is a chronic, recurrent, debilitating disease state resulting in impairment in educational, occupation, and social functioning. Right, so it's not just it's something that many times we as Jamaicans per se we take it for granted. Oh, just come out of it, just shake out of it. You're all right, man, everything all right. But we sometimes we don't really understand how bad it can be and the need for help. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we're having this presentation as well. Often it is underdiagnosed and underrated. And the studies show that up to only 50% of adolescents who then reach adulthood are diagnosed, meaning in adolescence, you miss up to 50% of children or of adolescents who can be diagnosed and who can be helped. And so that's why something a talk like this is so important. So we can help to identify and understand some of the signs to look for and how we can help. All right. So worldwide speaking, depression is actually the main cause of illness and disability in adolescents worldwide. And actually 1 in 5 adolescents suffer from clinical depression. And this is what the studies show, that the extent of depression as well is suicide, which is a tragedy all the time. And according to the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, one child dies by suicide, or sorry, one person dies by suicide every 40 seconds, right? So it is a global problem, and it is something that is prevalent, and we need to be aware of it. So, what are some of the signs of depression? All right, so according to a big textbook that we use called the DSM-5, so it is basically a 2-week period where you're having sadness or lots of interest in things that you normally enjoy. Plus, and this is over 2 weeks, as I said, and then you have other symptoms that accompany it. such as you can see in the slides, you have low energy. You just wake up and you want to stay in bed all day. You have no desire to do anything. You just existing, right? Feeling very sad and hopeless. You're just feeling sad. You're just down. You're probably crying often. You're just feeling very sad. You may also have irritability. Um, so you may become quicker to be irritable, or also on the flip side, you may become more subdued, more reserved, more just not wanting to move or talk or just be our own persons. You can also have changes in eating behavior. Some persons they eat too much or they eat more than they're normally eating, that they're normally accustomed to eating. And in other cases, persons just don't want to eat, which is actually what's more common. Sometimes you get preoccupied in thoughts. And if you can think about it, you may have experienced this before where something happens and you just lose your appetite, right? Whatever the case, you're probably eating food at the time and you hear bad news and your appetite is lost. You have no desire to eat anymore. And what I'm saying is that when this persists for a long time, you may be preoccupied in thoughts, you just don't want to be doing anything anymore. Those are some of the symptoms of depression. You can also have sleep changes. So in some persons, they sleep too much, and so they wake up and they just want to go back to bed. They don't have any energy, just want to stay in bed all day, you just sleeping throughout the day. And in some other um, cases, you sleep too little, meaning that you probably have difficulty sleeping. So you have thoughts that keep you up at nighttime. You worrying about the things you said in the daytime. You have negative thoughts that just come in your head all the time, just speaking to you. And it may keep you up and you have difficulty falling asleep. And sometimes if you fall asleep, you may wake up in the middle of the night and when you wake up, the thoughts come back and you feel worthless, for example, and it just keeps you up and you have difficulty going back to sleep. As I mentioned earlier, you can also have lots of interest in activities that you would normally enjoy. So before you used to be able to you used to like to go out with your friends, you used to enjoy being around your family members or playing video games or doing other things, going to church. But no, you don't want to do that anymore. You have no desire to be around people. You have no desire to get involved. You have no desire to do anything at all. And so another one is that you have difficulty concentrating, right? You, for example, you can't sit still through a movie anymore because you can't focus on the movie. You normally read the papers, but no, the papers or the book, you haven't, you have difficulty concentrating. The thoughts just keep on coming. And so these are some of the signs of depression, right? Um, it does not mean that if you have one or two that then you're depressed, right? But it could mean that you may benefit from seeking further help, right? Um, so depression does not have a face, right? Many persons are there are some persons who are depressed, and they go about their daily life just existing, and from the outward appearance, without even talking to them, they may look okay. They say the right and they say the right answers. You probably see them at church, and when in church terms, you would say that, they put on a face to come to church. They put on a makeup and they dress up and they go to church and, they go to church and they greet everybody and they praise the Lord and everything is fine. Everybody's happy, right? So some persons go through things like that. They put on a show, in a sense, and they put their best foot forward. Let's put it that way. And then when they're at home, it's a completely different thing, right? And so what I'm saying is that let's try to develop strong relationships, not just the platonic, meaning not just surface level relationships. We go to church, we see somebody, we learn their names, and we say, hi, what are you doing? You all right? Yeah, yeah, good. And you go about the business. But let us develop a community, a church community, family, yes, but in a church community that is caring and that is loving, because this is one of the ways where we talk about the restoration of the families is through the immediate family, right? That meaning the mom, dad, child, auntie, uncle, right? But it's also through the church community where you can play a significant role in the restoration of families, in the restoration of teenagers and also other persons. You'll be able to find happiness and joy as you give back and as you serve and as you communicate, as you move from just platonic relationships to deeper relationships. I'm going to show a video now, just to kind of a bit summarize what I've been speaking about thus far, and you can let me know. Let's see if it works. There we go.
I had a black dog. His name was Depression. Whenever the black dog made an appearance, I felt empty and life just seemed to slow down. He could surprise me with a visit for no reason or occasion. The black dog made me look and feel older than my years. When the rest of the world seemed to be enjoying life, I could only see it through the black dog. Activities that usually brought me pleasure suddenly ceased to. He liked to ruin my appetite. He chewed up my memory and my ability to concentrate. Doing anything or going anywhere with the black dog required superhuman strength. At social occasions, he'd sniff out what confidence I had and chase it away. My biggest fear was being found out. I worried that people would judge me. Because of the shame and stigma of the black dog, I was constantly worried that I'd be found out. So I invested vast amounts of energy into covering him up. Keeping up an emotional lie is exhausting. Black dog could make me think and say negative things. He could make me irritable and difficult to be around. He would take my love and bury my intimacy. He loved nothing more than to wake me up with highly repetitive and negative thinking. He also liked to remind me how exhausted I was going to be the next day. Having a black dog in your life isn't so much about feeling a bit down, sad or blue. At its worst, it's about being devoid of feeling altogether. As I got older, the black dog got bigger and he started hanging around all the time. I'd chase him off with whatever I thought might send him running. But more often than not, he'd come out on top. Going down became easier than getting up again. So I became rather good at self-medication, which never really helped. Eventually, I felt totally isolated from everything and everyone. The black dog had finally succeeded in hijacking my life. When you lose all joy in life, you can begin to question what the point of it is. Thankfully, this...
Wow. You know, we 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 pull around a black dog sometimes. And as mentioned in the video, it's like we try and hide it many times, as I said. And what it does, it pulls on every aspect of our lives. And when it's uncovered and buried and put to the side, then it's like we through the lens of that quote unquote black dog, we see the world, and through those lenses, then we start to have negative thoughts more. We start to more negative thoughts, and then that impacts on how we feel, and then that goes on to our behavior. And we're going to talk a bit about this a bit later as well. Looking at some of the causes of depression, right? So we operate in what we call a biopsychosocial world and spiritual as well. And what we see is that there are many times, I would say most of the times, you have a breakaway from one of these areas that causes more stress on everything else. So, for example, like in the biological realm, depression is also highly genetic, meaning for persons who have probably relatives or mother or father who's depressed, the child is more likely to become depressed, right? And so it can be genetic, right? In regards to this in the social aspect of it, there are times when you don't have enough food, for example, things to meet your daily needs, and then that can lead to depression. You may have a breakup with friends or family members, a difficult setting, and that can lead to depression as well. You may also have like things dealing with like grief, um, the loss of a loved one or somebody passing away, and that can those stuff can lead to depression. In regards to the psychological aspect of it, which means just in terms of how you process your thoughts, there are times based on the circumstances, based on what's happening in life, when we can feel unloved. Your birthday comes and persons don't send you, they don't greet you as well as you would want to be greeted, or you feel worthless. You fail the exams, you feel worthless, and you feel like a failure, and there's nobody to talk to. You don't have many friends, or you don't feel like you're good at anything. And many times these thoughts just come and they impede on us, and it causes that breakaway from one of these circles, and it becomes unbalanced. And also the spiritual aspect as well. Many times when there is that fight between who you want to be and who who you want to be, and also what your desires are. It can cause a lot of problems. The things that you're doing that you don't want to be doing, and it causes those things spiritually. Trying to figure out the life you want to live. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, I was 18 at the time, and I remember just having a difficult time just to figure out life, right? And it's like, I knew about Christ, and I knew that this was the right way to go. But still, I was still torn in what to believe, still torn in terms of where I want to put all my energy, and what I wanted to do. And I wasn't, let's say, I don't think I was necessarily fully depressed, but I remember having these thoughts, and I knew that if I didn't have those other factors which were going well for me, like a good family environment or good persons who I could talk to, I knew that this could have led, looking back, I realized this could have led to depression. And so, we all struggle with different things at different times. And it's how we deal with it, which plays a big part. You know, luckily for me, I will speak a bit more about my experience later on. So in regards to our the depression, right? Many times I have the breakaway, as I said, and this is just showing some more detail about some breakaways that we can have that can lead to depression. This is what we call a hierarchy of needs. It's just showing what all humans strive to achieve in life. And it's basically what Maslow was basically saying that before you can move on, the others at the bottom of the pyramid need to be filled, right? So in regards to like the physiological, he's basically saying that if you don't have proper food or shelter, your basic needs not met, clothing, then um, you'll not like to feel fulfilled in life, and which can lead to depression, right? If your safety isn't met, if you feel very unsafe in your environment, or you don't feel like you're being cared for well, you feel based on where you live and you feel afraid all the time, then those things can lead to depression, right? If you don't feel, and you have to love and belonging, if you don't feel like you have a unit, um, whether friends at school or friends at work, or friends at church, or a good family setting, then those things can lead to depression as well. And just stressing the emphasis of the church in all of this as well. Many persons come from broken homes, right? Many of us comes from broken homes, and we come to church, and we come to church, and a part of coming to church is to experience a loving relationship, to build community. And so as I said before, let's strive to be a loving community. Let's strive that people can look on us, look at the church, and see that Jesus is in the church, that we are good representatives of Christ. Let's not shun the vulnerable and the needy, persons who don't fit in our social class or our social agenda. But let's just be loving. Let's embrace, and let's see how we can make a difference. And the difference may be made in your life. So love and belonging, when we don't have that connection with persons, that can lead to depression. And then in regards to self-esteem, as we go on, when we don't feel like we're recognized, or we don't feel like we have a sense of worth, or a sense of a good self-esteem, then these things can lead to the negative thoughts, and then lead to depression. And basically what Maslow is saying is that once all these things are met, once everything else is met, the physiological, the safety, the love and belonging, the self-esteem, then we have the ability to live life to the best of our ability, right? To the best of our possibilities, right? And that's how we become self-actualized. It's basically saying we have the ability to strive for the best, and we put out our best in life. We put our best foot forward. So we have many issues, right? We have many problems. And depression comes in different shapes and forms, right? Or negative thoughts come in different shapes and forms, and we are beaten on all sides, right? But what I want to say is that we can cope, right? We can cope. You can just say it with me. You don't have to unmute your mics right now, but you can just say it. We can declare it. We can cope. I can cope. And Philippians 4 verse 13 is a very common verse. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? And sometimes, we have to declare these things over our lives, and we have to declare these things over our children. And as kids, as teenagers, we have to declare these things, that I can cope, I can get through. Christ gives me strength. And one of the things why I chose to just share this verse is that at the time when you look back at it, right, from Philippians 11 and 12, 4 verse 11 and 12, Paul is talking about a lot of emotional pain, right? He's talking about that he has learned to be content, whatever the circumstances, because he's known what it is to be in need, right? He's known what it is to be beaten. He's known what it is to have plenty. He's learned the secret to being content in every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want, right? And then he goes on to say, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And so many of us, many times we think about it and say, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And you lift up the 5-gallon water bottle and you bring it up the stairs, right? But I think what Paul is leaning more towards is that no matter what the circumstances happen, no matter what's going on around, God has given me the ability, God has given me the strength, God has given me the emotional strength to make it, right? He given me the emotional strength to cope, and I can cope. And just to interject as well, coping doesn't mean not asking for help, right? A part of coping can be asking for help, right? So if you're struggling with many of the things I discussed earlier, and you're doing your best to cope, and you feel like you're not coping, and you feel like asking for help is weakness, it doesn't mean you're weak, right? Many times we have to ask for help. Many times we have to take a pit stop, as I would say, take a pit stop to be able to move forward, right? A part of being strong is knowing when to stop, right? I remember when I was studying a lot in high school, and at that time, I don't want to go for hours upon hours upon hours, right? But there comes a time when I realize that it's important for me to take a pit stop, to sleep, to get some food, and that pit stop helps me to go further, if I didn't rest. So what I'm saying is that, stopping or reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. So we can cope, and I'm going to talk about some ways to cope. All right. Everybody say we can cope. We can cope. All right, great. Moving
We
on.
can cope.
All right. So Thank you. The first one that we're going to be talking about is counting your blessings, right? We go through life many times and we don't take a stop to realize how much we have, right? Not necessarily comparing with other persons, but to be grateful for what we have right now. Even just in this moment, just think about some of the things, and we can think about and say, I thank God for, the ability to join this session right now. Um, you know, I know many persons, just throwing it out there, I don't know if that applies to you, but many persons would not necessarily want to be leaving their home to go to church at 5:30 on a Sunday. I'm just saying. But we have the ability to meet here on this Zoom platform in the comfort of your home, right? And so that's a blessing in and of itself. We have Wi-Fi, there are many small things that we can pay attention to that really helps to change our mood or outlook on life. My dad shares a story sometimes that he had just bought, or no, he had a Hiace, right? A Toyota, a van. He had a van, and he was fixing it up like it was not working properly. He fixed it up, put a lot of money in the vehicle, and things were going well. He had plans for the vehicle, and then one day en route to our presentation, he gets a call saying they stole his vehicle, right? And of course it's distressing. Of course it's difficult, right? Of course it is hard to hear that, especially after they put so much work into a vehicle and somebody go and steal it. It's difficult. Um and he was going on to the presentation, and he had to choose to count his blessing in that moment. And so he would share, he says, he chose to see the positive side. He thank God that his wife, my mom, is not held ransom because she was in the vehicle at the time. Thank God that his children weren't held up at gunpoint and the vehicle stolen from them. So whatever the circumstance, we can try and find ways, try even the small things in the find a silver line in the dark clouds, right? Yeah, find a silver lining. And a part of counting your blessings is a gratitude journal, right? It says here for kids, right? Gratitude journal for adolescents, a gratitude journal in general. And these are some of the things that really helps just to write it down. It's just therapeutic in writing down, right? And these are some things that really helps to change our mood. That really helps us to cope during our time, right, while living throughout our stressors. At this time, I want two volunteers. There's some questions on the slide. Can someone just unmute their mic and share with us one of those things? As you think about it, some of the things is like what makes you smile, what's your favorite thing to do with your family, what do you enjoy playing with, what's your favorite memory, etc. Someone can unmute a mic and just share. Have any volunteers?
No, it's not volunteer. I don't know what you're asking. Where am I on my?
What? Sorry, what was that? I'm hearing someone. Joshua, you're saying something?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Have any volunteers? Something you're grateful for.
Okay, I'll be a volunteer, Doc.
Thank you.
Hopefully, I will have some company after. So I'll just take the first one. What makes you smile? And it's not hard to think about it. There are many things, and maybe I'll just share what comes top of mind right now. I think, over the past few weeks, I've just, been seeing the happy faces of children in church. And, I think back to when there was COVID and we weren't seeing the kids in church. And so it's just such a nice feeling to see them coming back. And that is just something that I find that even coming to church, to smile about, just to see the children rushing off to children church or whatever it is, it just brings a smile to my face. Anyone else want to
Thank you for
volunteer?
sharing.
You're
I see a
welcome.
hand up. I see Tanya Graham.
Evening, everyone. For me,
Evening.
what makes me smile is when I'm feeling down, I play gospel music to uplift and change my mood. Another thing that I do is to dance my problems away. And for persons that I come in contact with, always find a joke to give them, to put a smile on their face.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, one of the things that I like about um gospel music, Christian music, is that it has the ability to, it's like you're speaking the word as you sing the songs, right? You're speaking the word over your life, and it's like as you speak the words, it can help to change your outlook on life. It can help to change your mood. It can be very beneficial, just the whole aspect of speaking life over your life. That's one of the benefits that I really found listening to Christian music. All right, thanks for sharing. So moving on, the next one is to open up. And this can be very difficult for many persons. This can be very difficult for us. And one of the things that I found in my practice as well is that many persons who come, or there are some persons who come who they find just the whole talking process very therapeutic. Um, I had a patient in the emergency department who came, and I spent an hour to 2 hours just listening to her talk about what's going on at school, how she's feeling, all these different things that she was talking about. And just the whole aspect of speaking really helped her. And it can be difficult to find somebody to talk to, but I want to say it is important. And if there is somebody who you find is somebody who is trustworthy, you know, choose not just to ignore the questions about how you're doing, or you can choose to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is difficult, but it's very important. Some practical things for adults as well. Um, in this. I mean, both are for adults and teenagers, but for adults who create a structure, one of the things that helped me as I was growing up is the family time, which was centered around a meal. Um, I grew up in a family that was very busy on a normal basis. We all had our different things going on most of the times, but we always met and shared a meal, or most times I would say we met and shared a meal. We met and had dinner together. And it was through the talks at dinner time when, you get to know each other more, you get to grow more as a family. And I was sharing earlier about the times when I was struggling in my faith in terms of, what I wanted to believe in, to follow in Christ. And it was at one of these dinner times, I wasn't going to reach out to my parents at just another random time, um, just to share, because that would have been more difficult. But we had that set time at dinner time when it was easy to be able to bring up something, is or easier to bring up something, and that's something that I would encourage persons to put in um their family time, is a meal at the table. All right. Sometimes it's difficult to speak to family members because they can be a part of the problem. right? And so we can look for other persons who we can trust at school, who have guidance counselors, who are trained counselors, and so we can reach out and speak to them, right? And there are other counseling services that are available. So, let's try and find somebody to speak to, because talking in itself is beneficial. Right, so we've gone C for county blessings, right? And we just did O for opening up. All right. All right. So moving on. Here we go. And so P, we are prioritizing time with family and friends. Right. So there was a study which was done. It's the longest study ever done. And it basically tracked persons, two groups of persons. Um, Boys who were very privileged, went to the best school, they went to Harvard, and they were had the best kind of relationships, had money basically, and others who were poor, right? From the garrison, the ghetto, right? And what the study did was track both groups from their 18, 19, throughout their entire lives, right? Up to 80, 90. And so what they do, they ask questions about how you doing, how's your family life. They would have survey, I think it's every year or every 2 years. And at when the person at the end of the life, what they realized was what made persons more happy and more fulfilled in life was not the amount of money they had in their lifetime. It wasn't all their accomplishments, or like checking off all their goals, but what they had, what made them satisfied, and what showed what showed who were the healthiest, were persons who had healthy relationships, right? Who had a good community, persons who were in a good, at the time, like a good marriage, right? Someone who felt loved them, and someone who they loved, but also like family, right? And so what I'm saying is that, we can strive for all these things, all these other things, but we should prioritize spending time with our family and friends, right? Because this is what, when you look back, this is how you feel fulfilled, based on your social relationships, right? And as I said, happy people enjoy meaningful relationships with others. So we make it a priority. And practically speaking, how you make it a priority is, something simple as, you have interests. You can invite persons to enjoy your interest, or you do something else that they like, get into their world, especially parents. Don't just leave your kids alone to, let's say they go football by themselves, or they have the matching, just you leave them alone, or but to get into their world, see the world through their eyes, and be a part of their world. You carry them to football train, or you just take the time off and you're gonna watch them train. Um, and or you can invite persons over, you have a games night. Internet is there, you can you have group games on the internet. um you can bring them over and you play Uno, right? Do things to develop relationships, do things that you can develop stronger friendships. All right, so a part of that, um as we move on, we're going to look at managing our emotions. Right? That's one of the ways we can cope. Because really, the emotions can lead us astray, right? When the Bible talks about our heart is wicked and deceitful, and we can't trust it. The heart is really, what he means is the seat of the emotions. You can't trust your emotion, right? So you have to check your emotions, right? And so we have to realize that emotions serve a purpose, right? And many times in our Jamaican culture, we say, "Oh, how you doing? Bad," how you doing? Oh, good. How you doing? Medea, right? But we don't spend time and we contemplate and we think about our emotions. We just kind of push to the side and we use this phrase that covers everything. There are many times we have a certain feeling, but we don't really understand the feeling, but we just react to it, right? If you can have a visual imagery with me, um, there's times when we can be like a soda, right? We can be reactive. Like you have a soda in your hand and you shake, 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 and you just open it up. What's going to happen? It's going to spray everywhere, right? And you see this a lot, like if you buy a soda with ice in there, right? It's going to spray everywhere, and we can be very reactive in our emotions. When you get angry and somebody says something to you, you lash out just you just say whatever is on your head, and in saying whatever your head, you damage, you hurt feelings, and you hurt yourself as well, because you may not feel, you may not really have wanted to say what you said, but you said it anyway, right? And so instead of being reactive like a soda bottle, a soda, right? You should try and be like water. If you shake, shake, shake water, right? And you open it up, it's not going to spray all over the place, right? Unless it's soda water. But yeah, but regular water is not going to spray all over the place. And so we can be trying to be proactive, meaning we're trying to understand our emotions and understand what's happening with ourselves internally. And so we have a chance to react or to respond in the best way possible. And I had the basic emotions up there. And what this basically is saying is that all the emotions have a purpose, right? And so you can just read it through. All right. So there are many times instead of being sorry, let's skip to the slide. With our emotions, there are many times when it's difficult to respond to our emotions in the best way possible. And you just have to cool down. You have to just calm your head, and you just have to take it easy, right? And sometimes you can do this by just taking some deep breaths, right? Some deep breathing exercises. And it can be, you're just spending some time, like if somebody gets you upset, instead of responding to them in the moment, instead of going and just cutting them and just telling them what's in your head, you can just withdraw a bit and say, you know what, give me 2 minutes, then respond to you. And you walk it off a bit, and then you formulate what you're saying, and then you respond, right? Or you're feeling very anxious about this particular presentation or this particular thing you're doing at school or at work, and the deep breathing exercises help. And persons who are depressed as well, these are some tools in our toolbox that can help with this, right? In that stage with what you're going through. So in managing emotions as well, what we need to understand is that our thoughts affect how we feel, and our feelings affect our behavior. So, for example, if you feel that somebody let's say you're in school and you got a bad grade, right? And you did an exam, you studied for it, you get a bad grade, and so you think that you did poorly, and then what it does is that you feel like a failure, right? And then you feel like a failure, and then you tell yourself, "Oh, I'm a failure. I'll never amount to anything good in life. I'll never do well. I'm worthless." And then you feel like this. You feel like a failure, and so what that does is that you you don't feel like studying anymore because you feel like a failure, right? You already tell yourself you're a failure, and so you say, you know what, I'm not going to bother study because I don't fail already. I'm not going to bother study because um I just I know I'm a failure, and it's not worth it, and so it affects our behavior, right? And then it goes back to the thought of um feeling that you're a failure, right? When you tell yourself I'm a failure. And so this is one of the things, this this happens as a spiral. And so what you see is that it's a circle, right? It just goes on and on and on until you choose to take a stop to it. And this is how this is the framework of how we believe in many cases people become depressed. It you have this thought, and then the thought basically affects how you feel, and then the feeling affects how you behave, and then the behavior now reinforces that same thought, and then it's just a downward spiral. You get depressed and you just go down life feeling depressed. You don't do so well in that one exam, which then leads to not doing well in CXC, which then leads well not well to doing in CAPE, and as you can see the spiral. And then even socially, you have this you feel this way towards your coworkers or friends at school, and then as a result, you withdraw yourself more from them, and then as a result, you become more isolated, and then as a result, your friend group gets lessened, and you may not have many more friends, and then it just goes downhill, right? In the same way that we can have a downward spiral that can lead to depression, um, in the same way that we can have an upward spiral that leads to self-actualization, or that's a big word. It leads to feeling more fulfilled in life, right? So many times a thought comes to us, and there's the reference slips me right now, but it says, I take all thoughts captive and I hold it accountable to Christ. Right. So the thought comes, and sometimes I have to say, is this a good thought or is it a bad thought? Right? Is this thought how is the thought going to affect me? And we have to process that thought before we let it affect our feelings. Right. And it can be difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, right? It is, or it can be very difficult, but we can try and develop a habit of checking these thoughts. Don't just allow everybody through, all these feelings through, all these thoughts through. They come to the gate, you check it and say, am I going to let you through? No, I'm going to hold you there, because this is not beneficial to me. Right? Yeah. All right. So we can cope, right? And so it can be difficult, right? It is difficult. Living with depression, it is difficult. But through these small things I've shared with you thus far, we can put some of these things in place to help us to break free from depression, and also to help prevent us from getting depression, from being depressed, right? And so we're going to look over the 4 things that I mentioned. The C is for counting your blessing. All right, great. Counting your blessing, right? And having a gratitude journal, right? It's something that is having a journal. You write your thoughts, you write feelings, and sometimes these stuff you don't even want to share it, you don't even want to tell anybody. You write it down in a safe space, a book, right? I use an app, and with that password encoded. And sometimes when I stress out, I go write, right? Um, yeah, so I just be just a safe space to express myself. All right, so that's county blessing. And then is opening up. All right, yeah. So we're going to try and be more open to speak, because speaking can help. Speaking is beneficial. Talk therapy. Just being vulnerable, it helps. And then P is prioritizing family and friends, right? As you develop your friends, and as you get close to the family, then those stuff help with being feeling depressed. And not only for some persons who are depressed, they may not want to reach out, but there are some persons who may struggle with some of the things I've discussed. You can reach out, right? You go out of your way and say, hey, can I take you to lunch today? And you invite them out, and you go and you share a meal, right? Yeah, so prioritize time with family and friends. And E is managing your emotions. Where's E? What's happening here? Give me 1 second. Most. All right, great. E is managing your emotions. All right. Yeah. Let's check those emotions that come. Let's not just let everything through. Let's check it. Let's see if it's something that is good, it is worthy, it is worthwhile. And let's see if it actually helps. And if it's not, let's do our best to manage our emotions. And sometimes difficult, right? You talk it over, you work things through, you be vulnerable. All these things work together in a toolbox, right? And as you go through life, you may need to draw for a tool, whether you draw for a tool to count your blessings, whether you draw for a tool to open up, to talk to manage your emotions, etc. Right? You draw for a tool and you let it become a part of your habits, right? There is a gem, a memory gem I learned when I was in prep school, and it's just talking about the development of habits, right? You sow a seed. I don't remember, and I feel embarrassed bringing it up, but like you sow a seed and you reap a destiny. It's like you sow this one thing and then it becomes a habit, and then the habit becomes your character, and then your character from your character reach your destiny, right? And that's how these things work. It's a part of a habit that you put into place. Just some bonus things, right? Exercise is important, right? You know, regular exercise, right, works wonders. Um, and there are a lot of studies that even say it is the same benefit that you can get from antidepressants, right? It's a similar benefit that you can get from exercise over a period of time, right? So regular exercise, you get out to do something like don't just say, oh, I need to go run because them say you should run, but find something you like, basketball or football or walking. It's very beneficial, very good for your health, very good for your mental health as well. As you get fitter, there's an actual study that says that um, based on your like strength training is good, and it's a mention like based on your hand grip, how strong your hand grip is, it can show how ready you are to withstand depression, something like that, right? But all I'm saying is that exercise is beneficial, right? And this is me, right, today, getting in my exercise, having fun, and me, I've joined this running community, and it's been very helpful, very beneficial for me, in terms of just physically and as I process things, as I go through day-to-day life. So get involved and do some exercise. All right, so there are warning signs. So for persons who are very depressed, and these are some things I want to share with you as well. There are persons who are very depressed who they not into the exercise thing. They get very irritable. They look very sad and depressed and withdrawn, and they don't want to talk to anybody. Invite them for lunch. They don't want to go to lunch. You tell them, you try to encourage them to get counseling, and they're not into that. And it can be very difficult, and you wonder what to do. These are some warning signs that you know, we need to try and get help as best as possible, whether it's going to a professional, or trying to, as a third party looking on, probably asking them if it's okay to speak to the family, or something. But it's important to have an idea of these signs to be able to know the extent of how depressed somebody may be. And so some of these, yeah, so I just mentioned some of the severe signs. Um, thoughts of wishing to die. Sorry. Somebody saying they want to commit suicide, or joking about it, but not really a joke. Cutting themselves, or burning themselves. As I mentioned before, just staying in bed all day, not wanting to do anything at all, just have no desire to engage in life at any point. don't want to exercise, the grades are falling, the work is not doing well, it's decreasing. You have a hard time coping, you have multiple stressors, and you don't have any outlets. All these things are some warning signs that we need to find a way to get professional help, right? Psychotic features as well. Some of these things are like persons at the extent of their depression may hear voices. The voices telling them to kill themselves, right? Voices saying that they're worthless, that they're no good, that they're bad persons, right? And at that point, we need to explore the possibilities of speaking to a counselor and getting medication, or going to a psychiatrist, getting medication, because there is a point when we can say that if the person or if you don't want to do some of the things that may be helpful, medication may be the better option for that point in time. All right, so here are some services that are there to help. There's a suicide prevention hotline. That's 1-888-NEW-LIFE. Those are numbers listed there. And also their counseling services. I am a part of Choose Life International. There's a slide at the end which has a number on it. But reach out. There are some counseling services. There's also Family Life Ministries. And there are other places that you can reach out for help. If you to be honest, like if you go on Google and Google psychologist near me or counseling services near me, things will come up, right? So look into that. I know there are some churches who offer counseling as well. And so that's something you can explore. I know Bethel Baptist has it when it is more cost affordable, but just depending on how severe the depression is, sometimes you may need to get further help. You may need to go to some a psychiatrist or a trained clinical psychologist, which can really help you at that point in time, right? In Jamaica as well, we have child guidance clinics, and these are mental health clinics for persons who struggle with different things, and also with depression as well. We have at Glen Vincent Health Center, and there's also at UWI. All you need is a referral from like the guidance counselors can write referrals, your GP can write a referral, and then you just go up there and you make an appointment at the clinic, and then you can be seen, right? And if you don't go to a clinic, you can also go to another psychiatrist, right? And then in the worst case scenario, when there is problems at home and you may have these thoughts that you want to kill yourself, or somebody who's planning to commit suicide, speak to them and see how we can agree to bring them to the emergency department, because they may be in need of an emergency admission or emergency evaluation to see how we can best help. All right, and I'm just gonna show you the rest of this video. Nope, the rest of this video. There we go.
Lose all joy in life, you can begin to question what the point of it is. Thankfully, this was the time that I sought professional help. This was my first step towards recovery and a major turning point in my life. I learned that it doesn't matter who you are, the black dog affects millions and millions of people. It is an equal opportunity mongrel. I also learned that there was no silver bullet or magic pill. Medication can help some, and others might need a different approach altogether. I also learned that being emotionally genuine and authentic to those who are close to you can be an absolute game changer. Most importantly, I learnt not to be afraid of the black dog, and I taught him a few new tricks of my own. The more tired and stressed you are, the louder he barks, so it's important to learn how to quiet your mind. It's been clinically proven that regular exercise can be as effective for treating mild to moderate depression as antidepressants, so go for a walk or a run and leave the mutt behind. Keep a mood journal. Getting your thoughts on paper can be cathartic and often insightful. Also keep track of the things that you have to be grateful for. The most important thing to remember is that no matter how bad it gets, if you take the right steps, talk to the right people, black dog days can and will pass. I wouldn't say that I'm grateful for the black dog, but he's been an incredible teacher. He forced me to reevaluate and simplify my life. I learnt that rather than running away from my problems, it's better to embrace them. The black dog may always be part of my life, but he'll never be the beast that he was. We have an understanding. I've learned through knowledge, patience, discipline and humour, the worst black dog can be made to heal. If you're in difficulty, never be afraid to ask for help. There is absolutely no shame in doing so. The only shame is missing out on life.
All right, thank you. Just I want to, there's no shame in asking for help. All right, there's no shame in taking a pit stop and finding yourself again in whatever period you're going through, right? There are many times, as I had said, to take a pit stop and to work through some issues, to get help to work through some of these issues, and to be able to experience the best life that you have, that's waiting for you. And let's be a community that can help to facilitate and foster relationships with persons who can help, who can be there for each other when we all go through our different times in lives. I've had times when it's been difficult, right? I've had times when it's been very difficult, and I thank God that I have a support system that I can lean on in those difficult times, right? And so, be the person that you want to be. If you don't have it now, be the person that you'd want somebody to approach, and develop that community. All right. Thank you for having me. If you guys have any questions or comments, I am here. So any questions or comments at this point in time?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Thomas. While we wait, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat just yet. Brethren, please feel free to ask your questions or type them in the chat if you prefer that method. Dr. Thomas, I want to say thanks again on behalf of the Family Life Ministry Committee of the Church of the Open Bible, Twickenham Park, as we continue on this journey, because it is indeed a journey. We don't know all the answers, but we seek to provide some answers to persons who are going through particular situations. And I do thank you a little bit of the nuggets for my takeaway today, as you have shared so smoothly, so openly, so just not too complicated, just trying to break it down for us. And I think I'll take away that yes, we can cope. So there's nothing too difficult, there's nothing too, it's not too dark. And that black dog called depression, we can have that dog come to heel, so we can conquer whatever is being presented. And so in coping, we learn to count our blessings, no matter how small we may think it is. And over the past couple of weeks, we've been having presenters, and persons have been saying they have journalized things over the years, and I keep hearing that theme coming up in a lot of presentations. So count your blessings, practice journalizing, writing them down, and you'll never know when you may have to look back at those blessings, or what you may have considered just a small action that was taken that made you felt better. Somebody shared earlier and said they listen to music. I tend to do that too. When I'm in that moment, I will find uplifting music, and it does help. So count your blessings, opening up family members. For the teenagers or the younger ones here at school, we have a lot of teachers in our group. We have guidance counselors at Church of the Open Bible, Twickenham Park as well. And you have also shared some where we can get professional help. So count your blessings, opening up, prioritize, taking that time out. When I saw that family table, yes, it brings back memories, because I have 2 grown children now, and so I remembered who are not here and with us. And so I remember the days when we insisted that at least on a Sunday afternoon, no matter how busy you are, we gather at the table, because this is when you can have those conversations which may seem simple, but it gives them that avenue to share. We prioritize time with family and friends, healthy relationships. As our theme says, you know, we're trying to get back our houses in order. And the way to do that is to do that by bringing back the family, sharing godly family, healthy family relationships. And for the E, managing our emotions, and reminding us that we have choices. So when you think of acting out in a particular way, think back the bonus points. Exercise, wonderful, is same as using antidepressants in some situations, because you have reminded us when it gets clinical what persons will need to do. But exercise, just taking a walk, finding a little group that you can walk together at the office, something. And so we thank you, Dr. Thomas. I think I'm seeing some things in the chat now. Sister Sharon, do we have some questions there?
Yes, I'm seeing one here, and it says, what if you know that something is wrong, but you don't know what to do? Did you hear that one?
Yeah. Yeah. What if what do you do if you know something is wrong, but you don't know what to do?
Right. What if you know that something is
Yeah.
wrong, but you don't know what to do?
Mm-hmm. I think if you look at it from, and I'm not sure if the question is asking based on, you know, something is wrong, meaning personally, or something is wrong, I see somebody and I know something is wrong in that situation, right? So I'll try and give an answer for both. So for personally, right, it's really number one is understanding that you know, as you know something is wrong. I think a part of it is reaching out for help, right? You know, a part of coping is, as I had mentioned, taking a pit stop, or, you know, talking things through. And so whether if it's somebody trustworthy to reach out to, and to, you know, to say what's going on, they may be able to guide you in a particular direction, whether even you pastor, or sister at church, or a friend at school, or the guidance counselor, you know, somebody trustworthy. You know, you can reach out to them and see how they can help to guide you along. If it's somebody, the more difficult part, or the more difficult question is if you see somebody going through these things and you don't know what to do, right? A big part of it, as I would say, is to be a friend, to be friendly, right? You know, to go, if it's somebody at school, like for example, or at work, you can invite them to sit down and talk to you, right? And based on that friendship, how that develops, you can see where that goes in terms of asking them if you can share it with somebody else, or, you know, something like that. If it's a child, it puts it in a bit of a different light. But you know, speaking to other persons who are more in structurally control in a sense. You know, there are lots of different variables to go in many of these things, but it's just to see how best you can help. And I put some things, some services that are that is offered here, and so those are probably some of the things that we can employ as well, depending on the certain situation. I hope I answered the question.
Thanks for that response, Dr. Thomas. Any further clarification needed from who asked the question? I'm not seeing any other question coming up, Dr. Thomas. I suppose your presentation was quite clear, and I do see some responses here. Great presentation. Thank you for this helpful word. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm seeing quite a bit of thank yous, so I'm taking it that persons have been blessed. And then someone had asked about the video that you shared earlier. So I do take it that there's some takeaways as well by persons, and persons also saying very informative. Is this a presentation that you can share with us, Dr. Thomas?
If I can share it, can I share it?
No,
I'll
I
get back
mean
to you
to
on that,
send,
okay?
yes, that's fine. You can
Yeah,
possibly,
I'll speak with you.
yes, redact what you need to and then share after. And so, Sister Sharon, is there any other word to share, or any other, it may not be a question, anybody has any observation? I would